Right. So if you remember, we were solving the fourth problem, right? So as you can see that in a second order system, they have given the transfer function that is 16 divided by 1.5 s square plus 2.4 s plus 6. This is a transfer function they have given, and they have given the step input of magnitude 6. Okay, so what has to be done with that, we'll see it later. So with that, you are supposed to, and here they have also asked to find the roots. Okay, so I just added it. Fine. So find the roots and determine all these 6 parameters. Fine. Let us see it later. So as you know that the second order, the same transfer function, I have written it here. So as we had stopped at this point, so 16 divided by 1.5 square plus 2.4 s plus 6. So if you remember, this is the same as that of the second order system, standard second order system. This is our standard second order system. So GS equals to 1 divided by tau square s square plus 2 z tau s plus 1. Okay. So if you compare this and this, so there is some difference. What is that? Here, actually, instead of 6, it has to be 1. Okay. So what has to be done? So what has to be done? You have to... so just a second. So what has to be done? You have y of s, you have y of s divided by x of s, okay, equals to, as it is 16. Fine. So I'll take 6 outside. What you are left with inside? You are left with 1.5. What is this happening here? So you get 1.5 s square, that is 1.5 divided by 6 s square plus 2.4 divided by 6 s plus 1. Correct? This is what you get. 2.4 s divided by 6. Right. So what happens to this is it has reduced to this particular standard form. So if you rearrange it, so what you get? You get 16 divided by 6. I don't know what is yeah. Okay, so 16 6 is there, divided by what is 1.5 divided by 6? Please check what is 1.5 divided by 6. I think you get what? You get 0. Yes, anyone? 0.25, Nitin. Okay, so I'll take that. Nitin has given the answer 0.25 s square. Correct. S square plus what is 2.4 divided by 6? 6 4s are 24. That is, I think you get 0.4 s plus 1. See there, I have reduced it to a standard form. So you can compare this with this. Okay, now you can compare this denominator with this. So what you have? You have now tau square equals to 0.25. Okay, now what is the value of tau you get? Tau is square root of 0.25. So what's the answer? How much you get tau? Yes, tau square equals to 0.25. Tau equals to square root of 0.25. Yes, anyone? What is square root of 0.25? Please give the calculator with you, all of you. Please give the answer, anyone? So Nagaranjani 0.5. So tau you get 0.5. Okay, so let us take it as second. So 0.5 second. Okay, now go to this term. So point and 2 xi tau. What is 2 xi tau? If you compare 2 xi tau, something. Just a second. So if you see that, it is 2 xi tau equals to how much it is? It is 0.4. Okay, if you compare this and this. So what is the value of xi? Yes, anyone? What is the value of xi? 0.4. So Alka has given 0.4. Please check. Anyone? Please check. What is the value of xi? Tau you know 0.5. Tau you know 0.5. 2 is there. So 0.45. 0.45. So somebody has got 0.45. Somebody has got 0.4. I'll take it as 0.4. Okay. Now, yeah, Sukir, 0.4. We'll take it as 0.4 only. So you know the value of tau. Okay. And you know the value of xi. Fine. So knowing this, knowing these two, you can find the value of all these parameters. All these parameters. What is that first one? Overshoot you can find. You have a formula. Decay ratio you have a formula. Then natural period of oscillation also you have a formula. Rise time also you have a formula. Try to find all these four. Okay. So apart from this, see there, try to find the roots. So the roots is also asked. So what you can do is this quadratic form, you can find the roots of that. Okay, that is, you know, it's like quadratic ax square plus bx plus c. Okay, so with this formula, try to find the roots, two roots, that is s1, and see that you get the roots s2. Can you do that? Yes. Where there is a, substitute 0.25, where there is b, substitute 0.4, where there is c, substitute 1. And you know the formula. Okay, for quadratic, minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Use the standard formula, try to find the roots. I'm not going to solve that. Okay, now if you see this xi, if you see this xi term, that's a damping parameter. What is that? Your xi is less than, it is less than 1. Okay, so xi is less than 1. So I can say it as, under, so it is under damped system. Okay, so please you have to mention that it's under damped system. And once you write this, try to find all these parameters, all the four parameters. Overshoot, then decay ratio, period of oscillation, and TR. Okay, that is the rise time by using the standard formula. I'm not going to solve that. I will tell you how to solve 5 and 6. Fine. So, and roots also you find. So, roots you find, then all the four parameters. If you want, please take the screenshot of this. Take a screenshot of this. Okay, take the screenshot of this and try to solve. See, please don't overload your mobile with a lot of images and other things. When you take the screenshot, please try to copy it down in your notes and erase that screenshot. Okay, because later it becomes very confusing for you to which one to refer. So today's class, when you finish, so copy down in your notes and you can maintain it. So fine. So have you done with this? Have you done with this? This one steps till 4. Now I'll tell you how to find the ultimate value of response and maximum value of response. Okay, so I'll go to the next slide. So please remember, I'll use this. I'll use this final transfer function. Okay, so just to see there, I'll go to the next 5th and 6th. I'll tell you ultimate value of response and the maximum value. These two I will tell you. Fine. So what was your transfer function? So what was your transfer function? It was y of s. Yeah, some problem. I'm getting some unwanted lines here. Okay. So y of s. Just a second. Yeah. So what you get, y of s divided by x of s equals to, what was there in the numerator? It was 16. 16 divided by 6 into, what was there in the bracket? It was, I think, 0.25. Yes. Okay. Plus 0.4. Yes. Plus 1. Okay. So this is what you got. Right. So now, what is the fifth one they have asked? Ultimate value of a response. Please have a look. What do you mean by ultimate value? What do you mean by ultimate value? If you remember here, so this was your Y minimum in that second order underdamped system, and this was your ultimate. Please correct it. So there is given some unwanted line there. I don't know why. Okay. So Y ultimate. So it is giving Y ultimate, and finally you get Y max. Okay, so Y max. So your response, fine. So it goes on happening like this. So what is your ultimate value? This is your ultimate value. So he is asking, what is the value of this? What is the ultimate value of this? He is asking. Okay, fine. What we'll do is, so he has given the step input. If you remember, I'll go back. If you see there, there's a magnitude of 6. So magnitude of 6 step change is given. So I'll use that. I'll use that here. What is that? It is x of t. X of t is 6. This is a data given. Input is 6, step input. Okay. So the value of this input, it is from here to here. The value of input, it is 6. So I cannot use it directly here. So what I'll do is, I'll take Laplace. So you get what? 6 divided by S. Okay. So it is giving some unwanted line. So 6 divided by S. Right? Now I'll substitute this here. Okay. So I'll substitute that here. So what happens? You get Y of S equals to 16 as it is in the numerator. 16 as it is in the numerator. So 16, fine. Then x of s, if I substitute, you get here 6. So denominator you get s. Then apart from that you have 6 here. Okay, so whatever is there in the denominator I'll write. So that is 0.25 5s plus 0.4s plus 1. Okay, so this is what you get. So your this 6 and this 6 get cancelled. Okay, so you are left with in the numerator 16 divided by s into 0.25 s, so and so. Now what is the next step? You are supposed to take the Laplace inverse of this. So if you take a Laplace inverse, you get y of t equals to, can you tell me what you get if you take a Laplace inverse? Please remember, this is the denominator. I can write it as, okay, I can write it as, how I can write this denominator, this term, I can write it as 16 s. Okay, so it is as good as s minus s1 and s minus s2. It is of this form. Okay, so if I take the Laplace inverse, try to solve this 16 as it is. So what is the Laplace inverse of this term? Okay, if you remember, we have done it and we have got the answer already. Derivation we didn't complete. So this is it. Okay, so I think I have to, just a second. Can anyone remember this equation 1? Can you see that equation 1? Okay, so I just picked it here. Otherwise, I'll erase. Just a second. I'll erase this. I'll erase the part of that. Okay. So I've taken this. Okay. Fine. Now I think you can see that. So this was our equation. Okay. So this was our equation 1. So this is already the step response for the underdamped system. So if you try to solve for the denominator, you get in the same fashion. Okay, what do you get? 16 as it is. I'll keep 6. Oh my God. I'll keep 16 as it is. Okay, so rest all, this whatever is there in the box you get. That is 1 minus e raised to minus xi t by tau. Okay, that all this whatever is there, you get it here. Fine. Okay, so this is what you get in the denominator. If you just try to use that, this is what you get. And please remember, when you say ultimate response is the one where the time is infinity. So when it starts oscillating like this, so finally this value keeps on oscillating. So it attains a steady state. At t tending to infinity. So how do you get the final ultimate value? You get the final ultimate value when you substitute t equals to infinity in equation 1. Okay, so if I substitute t equals to infinity in this equation 1, can anyone tell me what you get? What do you get if I substitute t equals to infinity? Here in this, I'll substitute t equals to infinity. Okay, so what do you get? The final form of this. So you have bracket 1 minus e raised to so and so. So if I substitute t tending to infinity in that, so what will be your response? Or what will be your final ultimate value? Swati 1. Swati says it is 1. Is it 1? Is it 1? Nagaranjani, yes. It is 1. But please look, that 1 is multiplied by 16 here. 16 is already there in the numerator. 16 is there in the numerator. Okay, so what happens? You get 16. Sriramu, 1 sir. No, it has to be 16 into 1. Okay, so the answer is 16. So you get your response. No, what you are telling is correct, 1. But that 1 is for this. But here in our problem, you have in the numerator, not 1, you have 16. So 16 I will not touch. So 16 is a constant. 16 I will take it outside. Rest all the denominator term is what you get here. Okay, so denominator is what you get. That is 1 minus e raised to so and so. If I substitute that, t tending to infinity in that, so you get 1, correct. So 1 multiplied by 16 I have to do. Then only you will get 16. So your final answer, y of t, it is 16. Okay, so 16 is your ultimate value. Okay, so you can take a screenshot of this. So your y ultimate is 16. That is your final ultimate value. So your output settles at 16. Okay. So I think you have taken the screenshot. I'll erase this. Okay. So what was your one more last bit? Find the maximum value of a response. Please remember in this graph, okay, so this is your input. Okay, so this is your input, and output, it starts, goes up, comes down and keeps on happening like this, keeps on happening like this. Finally, it settles down. So this is your output. Okay. So you call this as minimum, and this as ultimate. Okay. So this as ultimate, and this as Y max. Okay. So what he has done, we have done this type of problem previously. He is asking to find this Y max. Okay, so they want Y max. How do you find? If you remember, this is known to you as C1, and this is known to you as C2. Okay, so what is C1, what is C2 now? So how do you find Y max? So as we have done earlier, so Y max equals to, how do you write? C1 plus C2. Correct. So C2 you take it outside. C2 you take some problem with the I think, yeah. Okay. So C2 you take it outside. So what you get? You get C1 divided by C2 plus 1. Okay. So this equals to Y max. Y max equals to C2. Please remember, what is C1 by C2? What is C1 by C2? C1 by C2 is overshoot, which you have to obtain and substitute here. I'm not going to do that. Overshoot, the previous steps you have to find. So that overshoot, what you find, don't put it in percentage here. Don't put it in percentage. Put in the decimal only, the fraction, point something you get. So overshoot plus 1 into C2. Okay. So what is the value of C2? The C2 here, in this particular problem, what is the value? Okay. So C2 is your ultimate value. Please remember, C2 is your Y ultimate. Please remember, it is Y ultimate. What is the Y ultimate you have got? Just now you have solved it, is it not? So what is that value? You got it as 16. So substitute that 16 here. So 16 into overshoot plus 1. If you do that, you get your Y max. Okay. So this is how to find the Y maximum. I think you recall these steps. These steps I told you earlier. Okay, so that is C1 plus C2. So C2 you take it outside, so and so. But here C2 is your ultimate value, which is nothing but the 16 which you obtained from the previous step. So substitute, you'll get the Y max. Okay, so this is how you have to solve the problem. Any doubts? If you have any doubts, please raise a question, or else take the screenshot of this, try to solve. Take the screenshot of this and try to solve. Okay. Any doubts, students? Yeah, anyone? Any doubt? If you have any doubt, please raise a question. Okay. So try to solve this. Take a screenshot. Try to solve the fourth problem. So totally, if you remember, I have solved 4 problems. So all the 4 problems, try to solve in your notebook, in your notes. Okay. So because in the IA, in your test or in the exam, it may appear with some change in the data. So please copy it down. Don't read the soft copy. I keep telling many times. So write it down. If you don't understand any step while solving the problem, please raise the question. I'll try to answer. Okay. So with this, right. So we have come to the end of this chapter. I'll try to summarize this. Okay. So I'll try to summarize this. So what all you learned in this particular chapter? So we derived the second order system. So what is the second order system? The dynamics of any system, if it is given in terms of second order differential equation, we call it as a second order system. Okay. So in second order system, we took 2 examples. One is YouTube manometer. Okay. The other was a damped oscillator. Okay. Either one can appear in the exam. Fine. So the way of approach for second order system is quite different. We make use of forces. We don't use unbalanced unsteady state mass balance or this one. What is that? Heat balance. We make use of the forces, and we make use of Newton's law of motion. So based on that, we try to derive and get the second order system. Please remember. So second order system always has what? In the denominator, your second order should always have tau square s square plus 2 xi tau s plus 1. So always it should have this. Okay, so here in the second order system, please remember, you get two terms. One is tau, which speaks of the speed of a response. Second one is a xi, which takes care of the oscillation, because in the second order there's a lot of oscillations. Okay, so it tries to characterize the oscillation of a system. So if you remember, we get three responses. One is for, as you can see in case one, when you take xi less than 1, the roots are complex, and we call the system as underdamped, and it's oscillatory. Okay, so roots are complex means, please remember and see, have a look of this image. So always complex roots means they lie on the left hand side of this. What is this? Please remember, this is your real axis. Do you remember? Your horizontal is your real axis, and this is your imaginary. Okay, so this is your imaginary always. So real axis, imaginary axis. So complex, this is positive real, this is negative real, this is positive imaginary, this is negative imaginary. I think you are well versed with this. Okay, so roots, always when you say complex, if they lie on this side, okay, then straight away you have to conclude that it is an underdamped system. Please remember. Okay, when you find the roots of any second order system, if the roots are complex, straight away you conclude it's underdamped. So it is oscillatory. Suppose if when you're trying to find the roots, okay, so when you're trying to find the roots, if they are, yeah, I have to erase this. Okay, so if I'll go to the case 2, if the xi is greater than 1, roots are real. What do you mean by roots are real? Roots are real and distinct. Please have a look. So these roots are real and distinct. So roots lie on the left hand side of the imaginary axis. So such system are, we call it as a overdamped, and they are non-oscillatory. See there, this is overdamped. Okay, so real roots you get, and they are distinct. They lie on the left hand side of this imaginary axis or j axis. This is imaginary. So roots lie on this always. So coming to the third one, what is that? When xi equals to 1. Fine. What do you mean by xi equals to 1? There, you get the roots which are real and equal. So such system, we call it as a critically damped system, and they are non-oscillatory. Now just let us see real and equal roots, where it lie on this. Yeah, you can see that. See there, the roots are real and equal. They lie on this real axis. They lie on the real axis. And the system is non-oscillatory. And is critically damped. Bit faster, the response here is bit faster. Okay, so it is bit faster compared to that of your underdamped system. Okay, so underdamped, they are very, very sluggish. Okay, so with this, we'll try to conclude the chapter. So we have done with the 3 chapters. One is a basic chapter. Okay, variables, then open loop, closed loop, feed forward, feedback, and all that. Next, we went for the first order system. Okay, then we studied the inputs. Okay, then we went to the third chapter, that is a second order system. So we saw some new terms, xi, less than 1, equals to 1, greater than 1. So responses, there are 3 types of responses in this, whereas in case of first order, you get only 1. Okay, so whereas in case of second order, you get 3 types of responses based on the xi. Okay, so we are done with 3 chapters. So we'll go to the 4th chapter today. Okay, so we'll go to the 4th chapter today. So what is the title says? Please read the title. Okay, so please read the title. What it says? It says it's a block diagram. Fine. So as you can see from this picture, so industry, okay, I just represented in the form of blocks. Can you do that? Yes. Okay. Anything can be put in the form of blocks. Okay. What is the use of putting the blocks? It is just for the communication purpose. Okay, so if you want to show something, the area or your house where it is located, what do? You take a piece of paper, okay, you try to plot the route, and your house you try to locate with the help of block. Okay, if there is some other landmark, that also you try to locate with the help of blocks. Okay, so here in this particular chapter, we try to use these blocks for some communication. Okay, so main thing is blocks are mainly used in a control system or anywhere for the communication purpose, for the ease of a communication. But here in control system, we try to use this block diagram for the communication, for easy representation, and also for some calculation purpose also. I repeat it, block diagram in this control system, we mainly used for the pictorial representation, means for the easy communication, for easy understanding, for easy analysis. Okay, here we make use of mathematical calculation. Block diagrams, we try to reduce them. Okay, so that is the main intention in this particular chapter. So any system can be put in the form of blocks. Okay, so you can just see this image. I used this earlier. So what is this? So there is a car. You can see that there is a car which is driving. Okay, who is driving? A lady is driving. So by the hairstyle, it looks like Alka. Okay, so Alka is driving a car. So she is driving at a speed of something like 80. Okay, so 80 kilometer per hour. It is her speed. So suddenly there is a school nearby. So there is a signboard. Okay, I think you might have seen while traveling on the highways. So usually if there is any any school and all, they put some limit, or any curve, they put some signboards. So here the speed limit is 60. Okay, so maybe because of a school, or maybe risk in driving that particular road. So it is 60. So what she does, so first she has to see the signboard. Okay, Alka, she has to see the signboard. What she does, she uses the sensor. Okay, so her nose, her mouth will not help to see the signboard. What is that? Her eyes. Okay, so eyes look at the signboard. So signboard reads 60. Okay, she's driving at 80. Signboard says 60. So what happens? Your brain does a calculation. Correct. So your brain does a calculation and it generates the error. What error? So error is 80 minus 60. So it says that, so you are exceeding 20 kilometer per hour. Okay, so signboard is 60. Your speedometer reading shows 80. So your brain calculates and says that, no, Alka, you are exceeding the limit. So 20 kilometers per hour, you are more than that of a speed limit which is given. So what she does, she immediately reduces the speed of the car. Okay, so she reduces she puts back her accelerator, or puts back her feet, which is used for throttling. So she reduces the speed. So by reducing, what happens? The flow of petrol gets reduced, and finally your car, okay, from 80, it is brought to 60. Is it not? So this is the overall closed loop system, how it works. See there, I have showed all the pictures. I have to show car, I have to show Alka's image, sensor, calculation, her brain, her leg, all that. So instead of putting this all, so I'll try to convert this into a simple block. See there. Okay. So I'll try to put this in a very simple block. What happens? It helps for the easy understanding. Now, what is the process in your particular example I have taken? It is nothing but it is driving a car. Okay, so it is driving car is the process. Okay, so what is the output? What is your input desired? Please remember, your desired input is 60 kilometers per hour. What is the controller? Controller is the brain. Okay, so controller is the brain. So feedback, what is the feedback you do? So you try to measure with the eyes. Okay, so your eyes has to be measured. What is the output? So you try to measure this output, that is nothing but the speed. Okay, so speed you try to measure with the help of your eyes and use 60. So when you try to measure it with the eyes and this one, so it is 80 kilometers per hour. So 80 minus 60, okay, so that is a 20 kilometer is the error. Okay, it is the error generated. That error goes to the brain or a controller. See, this is a very easy way to understand instead of going for this thing. So what I think you understood what's the advantage of using the block diagram. So any component in a control system, can be put in the form of blocks, and you can try to study, you can try to analyze, okay, and you can try to calculate something. Anything is possible if you put it in the form of blocks, right? So it is very easy. Fine. Now please have a look of this example. Please have a look, then I will explain. Please have a look of this example, then I will explain. Okay, did you see that? So I myself have put this figure. You don't find this image in wherever in Google or anywhere. I have constructed this picture for you to understand. Fine. Now, if you see this, there is a process. What is the process? A constant temperature bath. Okay. So in this, I have to maintain some temperature of a water. Okay. So let us assume around 60 degrees. So I have to maintain around 60 degrees. That is the process for. Okay. Then what? I need to measure this temperature. So I need a sensor. Can you see this? It has been dipped here. So I have to dip that sensor. So it measures the temperature. Then I have a temperature transmitter. Okay. So all this is part of a measurement. All this is a part of measurement. Okay. So it is part of a measurement. I need a sensor and it is the transmitter. I'll tell you what is that. So whenever you measure, that measured, we call it as a process variable, PV. Okay, I repeat, what is PV? PV stands for, P stands for process, V stands for variable. So process variable. Okay, so once you measure it, so let us assume you are getting 40 degrees. Okay, so once you measure the temperature, you are getting 40 degrees. So that 40 degrees becomes a PV. That we call it as a process variable. Because it measures the variable of a process. It measures the variable of a process. We call it as a process variable. Fine. You measure it. Then with the help of this measured arrangement. So finally, the signal goes to the brain. Okay. So the signal goes to the brain. What is the brain here? Brain, I call it as a controller. Since you are measuring you are trying to control the temperature, I call it as a temperature controller. It can be pressure. If you're using to control the pressure, we call it as a pressure controller, pressure brain. Okay, temperature brain, pressure brain, like this. So here it is a temperature we are interested in controlling. We call it a temperature controller. See there. Now the brain here, the brain which I used to call it as a controller is your what? It's your system. It's your computer. Okay, so your computer. Now it's a brain. Can I call it as a brain? Yes. Okay. If you give some programming to the computer will do that work. Is it not? Whatever your brain does, computer will also do that. So your controller is your computer is a controller now. So here, this computer should have a set point. It should know what temperature you should maintain. So your set point has to be fed to the brain. Okay, so as we discussed earlier, so your brain, Alka's brain should know that the speed limit is 60 km per hour. Okay, Alka's brain should know it is a 60 km per hour is a set point. So like this, your controller, which is a computer, it is also having S stands for set, P stands for point. SP stands for set point. So what is the set point? Set point is 60. So this is our desired value. So once you measure, it was 40. Okay. So finally what happens? It generates the error. I'll call it as E. So error. What is the error? Error is again 40 degrees centigrade. Okay. So error is 40 degrees centigrade. So based on the error, the computer sends the signal to the wall. Please look. It sends the signal to the wall. Okay, so what it tells, wall, you please allow more of the steam. Okay, it tells that wall, you open the wall in such a way that you allow more of the steam so that your PV, that is, which was showing 40, now that has to increase to 60. So that gives the instruction to the wall. Fine. So if you see this carefully, I have marked 4 parts. Okay. So I have marked 4 important parts in this example. Which is the first one? The first one is a measuring element. So it has a sensor to sense. Then it has a transmitter to transmit the signal. So what is the second one? Second one is a controller. What is third one? Third one is a wall. Okay, so wall. Usually that wall we call it as a final control wall, final control element. So we call it as final control element. Please remember, this is a new word, I think. Final control element. So wall is a final control element. Why we call it a final control element? Because the final control element receives the instruction from the brain. Okay, so it receives the instruction from the brain and it acts. So that's why we call it as a final control element. Here, which is the final control element? It is a wall. Our final control element here, it is a wall. So wall opens and closes and it allows the steam. Okay, so that you try to maintain the temperature in the bath to 60. So this is how it works. So basically there are 4 parts. Okay, so just see there. First one is a measuring element, correct? So I have a measuring element which has a sensor, and a transmitter together. We call it measuring element. Second is a what? Second is a controller. What is a controller here? Controller is a brain. So controller is your computer. Okay. So what is the third one? Third one is a final control element. Please remember. So third, I don't call it as a wall. I call it as a final control element. I can write in short FCE. You can use this term. Okay. So FCE. F stands for final, C stands for control, E stands for element. So final control element. Okay. So fourth is a process. Where is the process? This is the process. So I used a general term, 4 general terms, okay, to explain this particular figure. So what all you need to control any system, you need something measuring element, something to measure, and something to control. Okay, so something to act. Final control element, something to act, and what you need for all this, there should be some process. If you have a process, then you need measuring element, then you need controller, then you need final controller. Okay, so all this, okay, so that is entire picture. Yeah, I think I have a different thing here. So please have a look. I'll try to explain what is transmitter in one slide. Okay, so I think you are new to this word known as transmitter. So transmitter basically has 2 components. One is a sensing element Another is a transduction element. So any transmitter, I think you are familiar with the word transmitter. So, okay. So the transmitter transmits the signal. That is the meaning. Right. Has it stopped? Has it stopped? Hello?
No, sir.
It's not. Okay. It's working. Fine. So a transmitter has two things. One is a sensing element, another is a transduction element. Okay. So what is the use of sensor? Sensor senses. For example, if you want to measure the temperature, I can just use the wire. Okay. What happens when you dip the wire in any fluid which is hot? Once you dip it in that, so finally the resistance of that particular wire changes. Is it not? When you dip a wire, copper wire, in a fluid which is hot, so when the temperature changes, the resistance of the wire changes. So this resistance I cannot use for transmission. So this resistance, okay, it goes to the next part in the transmitter known as transduction element. So what it does, it converts. Please remember, it converts. It converts what to an electrical signal. Means it converts the resistance to milliamps. That is current. Okay, so it converts into current. This is how the transmitter works. So I'll repeat it. Transmitter has two parts. One is for the sensing. One is for the sensing. When it senses, it gives some signals like this, like ohms, unwanted, unmeasured, difficult to use it for any calculation. So again, it will be having one more part known as transduction element, which helps to convert. So it converts now. It converts in this resistance to electrical signal. Electrical signals can be used to convey. Okay, this can be used to convey. I cannot use resistance to convey. Electrical signal, say current can be moved from one point to another point. Voltage can be moved from one point to another point. Okay, so this is the use of a transmitter. Okay, so transmitter always has a sensor and it has some transduction together. So both together we call it as a measuring element. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll stop here. So I think I'll just take the attendance. I'll just take the attendance. I'll just see who all are there and try to mark it. Alka, Karnakar, Kavya. Okay, just a second. I'm just marking the attendance. Okay, so Swati, Vinay is not there today.